Right, we're coming to the first chapter now. This chapter is called Ye Old Faithful. I've named this chapter because I've been playing this particular opening, this particular variation of the classical Dutch for 20 years. Let's just get to the critical moment. White plays d4. Standard way to start. f5. Now, white plays knight to f3. e6. Now, there are many move orders you can play to get the same position. g3. So now that white has played g3, we don't want to consider fianchettoing our queenside bishop because we get in a lot of trouble doing that. So knight to f6, bishop to g2, bishop to e7, castles. So black now castles, c4, controlling some central squares. And now the classical Dutch is when you play d6 here. So d6, white now plays knight to c3. So this is the main position, which is going to be the main starting position for this DVD in general, because you're going to get this position most of the time and you really have to know it well. Now, Ye Old Faithful, the line we're going to look at, is a5. Now, I really like this move. I've played it for over 20 years now, and it has a lot of ideas behind the move a5. Now, the main idea is to control this b4 square. This stops white from playing b4 and advancing on the queen side. It also gives black a nice outpost on this square. So sometimes we might be able to play knight to c6 to b4. Or occasionally our bishop might want to come to this square. Now, one of the most enjoyable counters I had in this game was against Joe Gallagher. Now, Joe Gallagher's a top grandmaster, and I played him at the Isle of Man tournament. Now, Joe had just come to the Isle of Man tournament after winning the British Championships, so it was a tough game for me. It's his first tournament after winning the British Championships. I had the black pieces against him. I thought I'd wheel out Ye Old Faithful. It's always been good to me, so why not give it a try? So I played a5 against him. Now, I only found out afterwards he's ridden quite extensively on this move a5, and he thinks that white's doing well here. Now, the move he played was rook to e1. Now, this is the old main line now, should I say, because of the response I came to. So I think to start off this chapter, we'll have a look at this game I had against Joe with rook to e1. So I reached this position against Joe in this tournament I played, and he just played rook e1, which is a critical move. Now, we should know from the basic strategic ideas that white's idea is to play this e4 advance, which will give him an advantage. So basically what we have to do is stop this e4 advance. It's a very important point of the game. So how do we stop this move? Well, there's only really one logical way to stop this move, and that is knight to e4. Put a piece on that square to stop white from playing e4. Joe now continued with the most natural move, which is what I think most white players will play in this position. Queen c2. So queen c2 is aiming to force white's knight on e4 to do something. Now, this was an important moment for me. I played knight takes c3, which is an idea I came up with on the board. In the past, I've played knight to c6, which is a pawn sacrifice line. Now, this line is not so good. It's been refuted. Knight to c3 is a big improvement, and this is a move I played. So after knight takes c3, white now has a choice how to recapture. Now, the logical move is queen takes c3. This is a move that white played. We'll have a look at white's other possibility, pawn takes c3, in the theory section of this DVD. Now, after queen takes c3, again, I have this problem of stopping e4. This is always a move you have to watch out for. As I said in the basic rules, if white plays e4, we have to try to meet this move with e5. e4, e5. Obviously, this loses the pawn in this position, so how can I prepare this move? Well, knight to c6 was the logical idea. Now, Joe played e4, continuing with his plan. And now I played e5. You have to meet e4 with e5. Now, this is quite tactical, but luckily the tactics work out in black's favour here. After e5, white decided to take on f5. And already my pieces come flying to life. I played bishop takes f5, developing a piece, and now I have quite good control over the central squares here. White now played bishop to e3. This is too passive. White should have avoided playing this move. Again, we'll look at other options later on in the theory part. So if you want to jump to that section at some point to see what you should play, you can go there straight away. Now I played a good move, bishop to e4. This got rid of a good defender around white's kingside, the bishop on g2. I'm threatening the knight on f3, so white has to move this knight to d2. So I continue my plan, bishop takes g2. White now played king takes g2. And after my next move, I had a clear advantage. My pieces are better placed, I've got the e5 advance in. How can I make more action in the centre of the board here? Well, I think my next move is a good move. I played d5, taking control of the centre. We won't go much further than this, because I think it's clear to say that black's doing very well here. Black's taken control of centre, its opening has worked out well. The important thing to remember from this was to meet e4 with e5. Don't ever let white play e4 without you playing e5. A couple more moves are played. I'm now threading maybe bishop to b4. So white played a3. And here I went bishop to f6. All my pieces are working well. I have an advantage. So we'll move on to the next introductory game. Right, now we're going to have a look at another game in the old faithful variation after a5. In the last game we looked at a line where white played rook to e1, which is the old main line. Now in this game we're going to have a quick look at white's other main option, which is the move b3. Now b3 is a very safe and solid way for white to continue. He's not trying to play e4 immediately, he's just trying to develop his bishop on c1. Now in recent years this has become the new main line, b3. The reason for this is white's trying to control e5 a bit better and just develop his pieces. So black has to play very sensibly and logically against this move. Now I'm going to recommend knight to e4 again here. In general, black's very happy to swap off a pair of knights because black's slightly more cramped in this position. If you have a more cramped position, you should aim to swap pieces off because this makes your position less cramped. It also makes way for the bishop on e7 to come to f6, which is a very important plan and another thing you should really remember doing in this line. Now, white continued bishop to b2, guarding the knight on c3. I played this game at Capelle-le-Grand and it was against a Russian grandmaster. I think I got a very good position out of the opening, but I messed it up later on, so I went on to lose the game. But we'll have a look at the opening and see what I played, the plans I came up with here. Now, I played a new good move here. I just took on c3 immediately, which simplifies matters. It's a very easy plan to follow. So now white's really captured on c3 with his bishop. I played a typical idea, which we saw from the opening, queen to e8. Now, we know from the start of this DVD, the idea behind this move is to play queen to h5, which gets a lot of pieces near the white king. Now white played rook to e1. So it's going back to the plan we saw before, this e4 advance. Now, this is a very important moment, and a moment we should really take a bit of time to think about. White's planning to play e4. So, in the last game, we saw that black met this with e5. Now, this is not possible in this position here, because white's got too many pieces controlling this e5 square. He's got the knight on f3 and the bishop on c3. So, how can black react against this move e4? Well, important rule here, I'm going to try to get into your heads. If you can't meet e4 with e5, then meet e4 with the advance f4. So let's see how I managed to do this in the game. I played queen to h5, getting a piece nearer to white's king. White played e4. So I can't play e5. We know that capturing on e4 is bad because we're going to get a lot of pressure on the e-file. But as I said, if you can meet e4 with f4, this is what you should play. So I played f4 here. We're going to come back to the theory of this very soon. I'll just go the next couple of moves to show you the kind of position we are aiming for. So f4, white now played e5. Now, we should avoid opening up the e-file. So how can we keep the e-file closed? There's only one real way of doing this. That's d5. This keeps the e-file closed. We want to keep the centre of the board closed so we can attack on the king side. So d5, an important move. This is worth an exclamation mark, this move. A very good move. d5. Now, white now continue queen to d3. White has a big centre, but the centre's closed, so it's not too much to worry about. I played c6, consolidating my centre. Another interesting move here would have been b6. Again, we'll come back to this in the theory section. White now played bishop to d2, putting pressure on my pawn on f4. I played g5, defending my pawn on f4. White's captured on f4. I captured back on f4. So now there's an open g-file, which both sides are going to try to attack down. I'm not too worried about my lack in development here, because I'm going to try to bring my queenside pieces very slowly around to the king side. So king to h1, open g-file, white wants to take over this g-file. I now played a4, trying to probe on the queen side. c5 was played, closing down that side of the board. Bishop to d7. Now this is a good plan. The bishop wants to come round to the king side via e8. This is a typical French idea, actually. You'll get this in the French opening a lot. And in this line where you play f4, it's an idea really worth remembering. We'll have a look at a couple more moves and we'll have an evaluation of the position. White played knight to g1, rerouting the knight. I played queen to h4, pressuring f2. White played b4, closing up the queen side even more. I now play knight to a6. So let's have a look at this position. We're going to stop here and evaluate it. I think black's doing perfectly fine here. I like black's position. Black's got all his pieces developed. He's got a dangerous pawn on f4. He's got an open g-file to attack on. The position is closed. Black's got a lot of good things going for him here. I'd be happy to get this position again in the game of chess. But the one thing we have to remember here is this move f4. If white plays e4 and we can't meet it with e5, we should always aim to meet it with f4 when we keep the centre closed and we get initiative on the king side.